I didn't know we were going to be so formal here at the Clinton School, so my apologies, Skip, for not being better prepared, but thank you. Thank you very much. That was kind of you. Yeah, I chided Skip earlier about upstaging me. I didn't think that we wore ties for Clinton School events, so my apologies, everyone. At any rate, to echo Skip's sentiments, it's a real honor to be here. This series is an amazing thing for our city, and really, speaker series of this quality that's free to the public is really, there's a lot of places in the country that should be envious of what we have here. At any rate, if you don't know about the Oxford American, just a quick info on who we are. Actually, if you're a subscriber, raise your hand. Any subscribers here? All right, all the employees, that's awesome. Well, perfect, I'm glad we did this. Oxford American is a nonprofit arts organization whose mission is to explore the complexity and vitality of the American South through exceptional writing, music, and visual art. And we accomplish that mission in a few ways, primarily through the publication of the quarterly award-winning Oxford American Literary Magazine. We're a multiple national magazine award winner, and have really been important in helping launch the careers of many significant contemporary writers, especially Southern writers. But in addition, we also manifest that mission through the presentation of multidisciplinary arts events. We do a concert series at South on Main. We do a number of multidisciplinary panels and readings and things throughout the year at Little Rock and throughout the South. And so if the Oxford American is something that you value or you're interested in learning more about, you can get involved in a few ways and help make a difference for us and ensure that we're around for a long time to come. First and foremost, become a subscriber. That's the most basic way to help out. You can visit my friend Julia over here. We've got magazines for sale and subscription cards right there. Secondly, you can donate. As I said, we're a nonprofit, and your contributions directly support our creative projects, the exceptional writers that we hire, the stunning visual art you find in the magazine, the artists that we commission for work. And then finally, sponsor an event or help underwrite an event. As I mentioned, we do lots of events in this community, and none of them would be possible without sponsorship. So tonight's event, we're really excited to have Adia Victoria here, who's an exceptional young Southern artist, songwriter, guitar player. She's featured on the cover of our most recent music issue, which you see over here, which came out in December of 2016. And facilitating this conversation with Adia tonight is Pat Mitchell-Worley from the nationally syndicated radio program Beale Street Caravan, which you can listen to on KUAR. I see a friend from KUAR here. What night is Beale Street? You guys aren't carrying it now? Oh, my apologies. Well, you can see it online. You can listen to it online. But it's a fantastic show. It's syndicated to over 400 stations. And so tonight's event is part of a series of ongoing conversations that the Oxford American is helping facilitate, sort of about the intersection of civil rights and the arts. We at the OA felt that given all that's going on in the country and in the world right now, socially, that there's really no better time to expand the public discourse on this subject. And in addition, 2017 happens to be a really significant civil rights anniversary in Little Rock. This September will be the 60th anniversary of the Little Rock crisis. So throughout this year, we're going to be partnering with the Clinton School on a variety of conversations around civil rights and the arts. And so with these events, we're honoring the history, certainly of all those who have worked toward this and the ongoing work toward a more inclusive society. And finally, as we were preparing for these events, it came to my attention that there's a special resource we have here in Little Rock everyone should be aware of. Conversations about civil rights, obviously have to be considered in the context of history. And Little Rock, the city of Little Rock, has created this asset which is called the the Arkansas Civil Rights History Tour. It's a free app that can be downloaded on your phone, and I think you saw the brochures that were left on your seats. But I would encourage everyone, if you're inspired by the event tonight, to learn more and to visit littlerock.com and get the app and perhaps explore the 35 or more stops that they have created to talk about Arkansas's civil rights history. So that's all I have for now. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Would love to meet all of you afterwards. And without further ado, please welcome Adia Victoria and Pat Mitchell-Worley.
It makes me look like I'm always ready to go somewhere. Ignore that. It's just a habit of my mother's. So, hello, Miss Victoria. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
So you came, we were talking in the back, and I drove from Memphis. You drove through Memphis from Nashville to get here on the road to Little Rock. If we'd known, we probably passed each other.
You would have seen me in the van in all my glory.
So we'll start everything out. I'll just jump right in, I guess, and ask you specifically about your music. Speaks of this country girl who went out and she wasn't content with the place that she was in, so she decided to find a new place, a place where she fit in. And I wanted to hear from you, from your lips, a little bit about that perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a small town girl. I came up Spartanburg County in South Carolina, a small town just at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I think because of the nature of my childhood, we were so isolated away from modern culture that I kind of had to dream my own world. I had to ask myself big questions about my place in the world. Was I satisfied? Where was I going to go? How was I going to spend my life on this earth? And something in me, it kind of just kicked awake, and it sent me running. I wanted to see as much of the world as I could. I wanted to verify what I'd been told and what my school and my teachers and the church tried to impart upon me. And I didn't feel that any of it really jived with the girl that I knew I was or could be. And so I've always been a little fanatic about verifying, authority. And still to this day, I'm still asking questions.
So, as you explain that storyline of, I'm in this place, but I want more. I know there's more. I want to see more. It's one that we've heard through the ages. It's very human,
Absolutely.
So to me, I've been a bit baffled by the number of journalists that have sort of taken your story and made it sound like this is such a brand new story. What is it about you that they're like so freaked out that, oh wow, this has never happened before? Is it the woman? Is it the Seventh Day Adventist piece? Is it that you're black? What is it that has them so amazed that this is a new storyline?
I think it has something to do with all three of those, my southernness, my blackness, my religious upbringing, that I think that I was supposed to be something different than what I turned out to be. The world had a role for me. They had an identity for me that I was supposed to assume. And I think it was very human of me to kind of shirk away from all of these roles that society expects of black women, of Southern women, of American women. I wasn't content with any of them. It all seemed too small. And any time that I would try and fit myself within an institution's defined borders, I would go mad. I felt that something was being taken from me. So, I don't think my story is new. I think that there's a lot of women, especially a lot of black women, that have this enormous weight of stereotypes that are placed on us, that we're constantly having to duck and dodge and snatch our humanity back from those stereotypes. And it's a heavy work. It's a hard work. I don't see the other side changing anytime soon, and so I kind of had to figure I have to do my own thing in spite of what the world tells me I am.
Well, there has been a lot of media lately about your continued conversation, we'll call it, with the Americana Music Association, and the when you talk about boxes, when you talk about ideas of what someone is as an artist, the conversation that you've had with them has very much challenged where that organization is, who it represents, and what are they going to do about it. And so here you are, this artist that's like popping on the scene. Who's this new girl? Oh, we're hearing a lot about it. What?
Yeah.
We've been around forever. We're running things.
That's right.
And you've challenged that. And for you, was it just a natural? Did you think about it before? How could this affect my career? Because, that's always a thought. Or did you go, this is the truth, so I'm just going to say it?
I think that something that served me very well leading up to pursuing music professionally was I began researching. I needed to learn and sit at the feet of Black women, Black artists that came before me. So I began eating up a lot of Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, like all of these wise women who influenced me with their art. And I would seek out all of Toni's fiction and her nonfiction. And the one thing that she impressed upon me was the importance of recognizing the white gaze, because you don't think about how this world is arrayed in a way to please whiteness. It's just taken for granted. It's matter of fact. They want it to seem natural. So I began to question who it was that was consuming my art, who was trying to define me, who was trying to put me in my place, as it were. And I knew that if I began to give in to their definition of me, I would lose myself. It was the same instinct that I had as a little girl to run. And I didn't want to play that game. My art, for me, it's informed by my relationship with the South, which is messy and complicated and beautiful and very human. And I don't see that depth reflected in Americana. I didn't see that depth reflected in what was coming out of Nashville and Music Row. I saw a very simplified, very dumbed down version of the South, very silly. It seemed silly and shallow to me. And I knew that I was too big for that. I was too deep for that. My mind was too wide for throwing on a Stetson hat and being like, hey, y'all, It seemed like a caricature to me. And I had to make peace with myself before I started making music and sharing it publicly, that I had to be okay with stepping away. Mm-hmm. If I felt my peace was being disturbed, if I felt that my sense of self was being disturbed, I knew that it was important for me to say enough, to walk away from the crowds and the fans and whatnot like that. I can't put a premium on that over my peace of mind. And if I'm not able to make music on my terms and be myself and share it publicly, then I'll go back to performing it for my family and my cats, and I'll be okay. It's not the end of the world.
Well, as you say, most of us are very complex individually, and there are so many pieces in society that don't allow us to be ourselves, that don't encourage us to be ourselves. There's more of, join the crowd.
Right.
It's safer. It's,
right.
Everybody's doing it, so it must be okay.
Right.
And being an artist that's recognized for that, do you think that it is more freeing for you to create because you're not worried about what's going on externally? From an artistic perspective, you're just chronicling what you feel inside, or do you feel like it puts a little more pressure on you?
I can't really compare how I do to how others do, because I've never felt that, never experienced that. All I know is my story. All I know is myself and my truth, and really that's all I'm interested in. I've had music executives suggest that, maybe you should, try and brand yourself a little more, like become this thing that people can consume, but the thought of that just horrifies me. It's like, I can't ask that of myself. I can't make art under those conditions. It's not art anymore, it's just simply commerce. And that's not what I do.
Well, with that thought, in thinking about the idea of art for the sake of art, and what you're creating is so personal, do you think that it's that very attitude that people who hear you, they identify in some way? It calls to some piece of them, that's the thing that they can't put their finger on it, but there's something about her that speaks to me. And do you think they recognize that, or do you think they're just listening to a great song?
I don't know. I make it my business to try and stay out of other people's heads.
That's a good place.
There's a quote by RuPaul, "What other people think about me is none of my business."
Well, with that said, though, do you see yourself as a role model?
No.
Not at all.
No, this is my first go-around. This is my first rodeo at life. I would never presume that I should be looked at, little girls and say, do what I do. I made a lot of messy mistakes. My life is kind of chaotic. And so I think that there's a certain arrogance in saying, yes, look up to me, be me. And then that puts a lot of pressure on me to constantly be a role model. It's like, what I want more is to be able to relate to people that enjoy my art the way that I was able to relate to my favorite artists. Fiona Apple, Billie Holiday never said, hey kid, look up to me. What they did was allowed me, the fan, the listener, to see them as a human being. I saw the full expanse of their humanity. And for me, that's the greatest gift that any public figure can share, is let me be human. I'm not a human brand, I'm a human being. Let me be that, and you be that too. And we can relate to each other in a way that's really cool and really honest, and one isn't above the other. One isn't looking down at the other and telling the other what to do, because that's when you're doing that, something comes and smacks you in the back of the head.
Well, in a world of the music industry that is about the commerce of music and is about the human brand, I think that's the perfect way to put it. How do you find that happy medium as far as doing business and existing in that world while still, being able to be an artist? Because for most artists, it's difficult. It's very difficult to be themselves but still make a living at doing what they do.
Right. I'm just enjoying it while it lasts. I mean, I've been blessed with an incredible opportunity to make art on my own terms, and as long as I can pay my rent and do it, that's cool. I still have a side job back in Nashville. I wash dishes to supplement my income and to have a life outside of the music industry. And I like washing dishes, and it gives me a little extra money. I don't mind that. I don't want to look at my art as you have to feed me and take care of me. I don't want to put that pressure on the relationship that I have with my art and creating. I don't know if I've found a happy medium. I'm just making it up as I go along.
Well, there are so many artists of years of doing interviews, and often I hear the words, if I didn't do this, I couldn't do anything else.
That's a lie.
It's come up so many times, and this is so refreshing to hear you go, no, I'm happy to play just for my cats.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't take that away from me. And when you start saying things like, oh, I couldn't do anything else, it's just like you've put yourself in a very untenable position psychologically. Like, you've put yourself in a corner. You did that. And I know that my life is bigger and richer and fuller than just music. There's things in my life that I can draw from. I have my family. I have my love of books and learning. I have the library back in Nashville where I spend most of my free time. I like to stay active in the community. I like learning from my mother, who's a community organizer. I like to keep my life rich and full. I don't want to get my sense of identity just from being on a stage.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of inspiration that comes from that process also. Every time you read a book, oh, this would make a great song.
That's right.
Well, there has been a lot of talk of late. There's a lot going on within our country these days. I love how I try to find the most politically correct way to say this.
Don't worry about it.
But there is a lot going on.
That's right.
As I said to someone the other day, I don't want to hear about your silent minority. You need to speak up.
Yes.
And you have been very vocal about everything that you've seen that you don't think is the way that we should be going, is the way that's in our best interests. And I often ask artists, because I'm just curious on what they think about artists giving their political views or sharing how they feel about different issues. And I've gotten every answer under the sun. You know, some of the people that I think wouldn't say anything are like, no, I'm just here to play. That's what I'm here to do, to play songs for you.
Right.
But how do you, as an artist, and art is a reflection of the time that you live in, how can you stay quiet when you see things that are going on around you? And for you personally, what has been, you know, what's sort of been your attitude about not tiptoeing around things, because you're not one to tiptoe around things, you just say what you think, and also not make others feel like they are, there's a lot of, I'm right, you're wrong, so that makes you my enemy. You know, there's a lot of that going on these days. So how do you have your voice and find that balance there?
I try and be as open and honest about my human experience as I can be. As I've mentioned before, it informs my art. It is my art. If I'm not reflecting on the time in which I live, I don't know why I'm on a stage. I don't know why I have a microphone. I feel like if I'm not speaking truthfully about what's going on around the world and how it affects little me, it's like, what am I doing here? Why is anyone listening to me? I don't know if I would consider what I say political. I don't know if I consider myself political. I think that I am politicized because of the color of my skin and my gender. But I would say that even someone like Taylor Swift is political. She just happens to maintain the status quo. There's no neutrality. There's no Switzerland in this. Either you're happy and you're content with the way that things are, or you're not and you're speaking out about that truth. I don't know if there's a balance to be struck. It seems pretty black and white to me. Like, either you're going to talk about what is happening, or you're going to obfuscate what's happening. Or you're going to distract. You're going to try and, you know, entertain people by just getting them to look away. I don't know if I'm explaining this thoroughly or clearly, but I don't feel like I'm some sort of prophet standing on a mountaintop beating my chest, you know, and I'm just reporting on what's going on. There's a lyric by Talib Kweli. He said, in this journey, you're either the journal or the journalist. Mm-hmm. I'm the journalist. That's my job as an artist, is to be that eye. And for me, it's very important to remain on the periphery so I can keep that vantage point. I never want to be at the center of things. I think that you lose your perspective as an artist when you're at the center of the storm. It's hard to appreciate the full picture. So I like to stay on the periphery, stay on the outside, so you can appreciate everything that's going on and you can put that into your art. And if that makes me political, so be it.
Well, I wonder, as a host of a radio show, you know, my show is heard around the world, and often we get feedback from other countries asking, what's going on in America? I'm worried about you guys, is one person sent an email and said that. But the thing that has really struck me is that there's this perception of who we are and what we are, and this perception is being broadcast around the world. And then there are all these people who are saying, no, that's not me. That's not me. And as an artist, it is, you guys are on the forefront as far as trying to help people understand and see both pieces of the picture. For you, I look at the audience that you have. I look at the audience that my show has as a roots radio show, and it's predominantly white. And there's this one side of me that says, hey, if it wasn't for these guys, some of this music wouldn't be able to evolve because it wouldn't have the fan base to be able to grow. But then there's this other side of me that says, hey, this is the music of my mother and of my grandmother and that speaks to my people, and I want it for my people, and I want to keep it for us. So as an artist, when you look out into your audience, do you think about the fact, how am I sharing with them and giving them a perspective that they may not have the opportunity to understand, that they may not be able to see or they don't experience it every day in their life, whereas I walk it every day in my life. So how do you share that?
I get on the stage and I play, and that's where my part of the bargain ends. I understand that my music is consumed by a predominantly white audience, and they dig it, and they relate to me. I can see a lot of the shock of when I go and I play, and they've never seen Black womanhood presented to them in this way. So I'm still the other, but I think that I give a little bit more context to what the other can be. But then I'll go and I'll play for an audience, and I'll see like a young sister in the crowd, and she's looking up at me and she's like, finally. Like, she's been waiting for me. And it's a different sense of recognition. It's a different sense of gratitude. And that's why representation is so important. I was recently watching Scandal. It's one of my soaps. And a few seasons ago, Olivia's character, Kerry Washington's character, someone mentioned to her, they referenced her pressing her hair. And for a lot of white people, that probably just went in one ear and out the other. But as soon as they said that, I was just like, oh my God. Like, I instantly was brought back to sitting in my mom's kitchen and holding my ear and the dacks on my edges.
And the burn.
And the smoke. And it was a part of me, it was a huge part of myself that was validated in that moment. And that's what I feel my Black audience gets from my music, is validation in a different way than my white fans get. I think that white people perhaps take it for granted, the idea of representation, and we know what it's like the only thing that you see of yourself in mainstream culture are these grotesque stereotype caricatures that have nothing to do with you. So I don't balk at white people that consume my music, but I feel a certain sense of just solidarity when I see brown faces in my crowd, because I understand what it means for them that I'm up there.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that kind of get to where you wanted to go?
There's also a sense of when you see an artist and you recognize the sounds. There is I know when I was looking you up on Spotify, and I was curious to see what the similar artists were, and there weren't other artists of the list that looked like you, and I thought that was interesting, but I also thought, well, this opens the door for someone else. This changes this list. This makes a difference because it's another piece. It adds to what, so many of the offerings that we have. And with you, how do you, especially at this point in your career, promote other artists and say, hey, this is good, you should check this out, because now you've got people's attention. So as people are listening to you and hey, you should go check this out, or how do you promote new artists like yourself?
I don't.
You're still going. I'm still trying to promote.
I manage my own band. I'm trying to promote myself. No, I mean, I've been fortunate to travel a lot, and I've met a lot of fellow Black artists who I admire and I respect. And any time that I can have them open for me, like share the stage with me, I do that. And maybe I'm selfish and I get a free concert from this band that I really enjoy, but that's where I'm seeing my privilege of being able to tell my booking agent, hey, can we try and find an artist of color that I think that my audience would dig as well. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm not a miracle worker. I can't make dreams come true, but I can, any privilege that I have, I can use that to shine a light on fellow Black artists and continue this, I feel like, evolution in Black identity, Black art, reclaiming what's ours, what we did, what we made, and continuing to push boundaries and push back.
Well, there is, when you say reclaiming, of course, whenever I hear the word reclaiming now, my mind always goes back to the, when Alvin Youngblood Hart and Corey Taylor did the Reclaiming Banjo and just sort of talked about the history of the banjo as an African-American instrument. And so it hit me so hard how important that was to me that whenever I hear the word reclaim, that's where my mind goes to. Mm-hmm. And as an artist, the value of being able to collaborate with other artists and to be able to create with them is something that helps you grow and helps you really explore who you are. So for you, have you had that opportunity to dig into that? Or are you just at this point in your career where people are just finding out about me, much less me being able to do all the things that I plan to do in the future?
Yeah, I'm still starting out. I'm still a newcomer. I'm still the new kid on the block. And I'm learning the ropes. I'm learning how this whole industry works. But I am constantly meeting new artists who challenge me to make better art, to stay dangerous, to question, my comfort, question my beliefs, to keep pushing. And as I go into work on my second album, it's all, I feel like over the past 2 years, I've just been going out and gathering all of this information, meeting all of these people, and it has definitely impressed upon my art and what I consider my role as an artist. I always want to shy away from making concrete statements about who I am and what I do, because I'm a human being and I'm constantly changing and growing. I hope I am. If I'm not, then I'm stagnant. And I'm learning about my power as an artist, the power of my voice as a Black woman, and how do I want to apply that. I feel a lot more aware this time around going into the studio than I did the first time. I was kind of taken by surprise the first time around, and I feel like I see a lot more coming towards me that I can plan for, and that's a privilege. That's a blessing.
Well, as an artist who really wants to explore and has spent time exploring the past of the music that you played, and from the moment that I first heard you, I was immediately struck by, oh yeah, I hear the blues. And being a blues lover, I love the quote where you said you wanted to give the blues back its teeth.
Yes.
Because the blues has been watered down. It's been,
whitewashed.
Thrown out there as just like, oh yeah, it's stayed in this same place. If you look at the artists today, they still want to try to sound like the Sun House, the Muddy Waters, the Howlin' Wolf. But life goes on and people,
exactly.
They evolve. And the blues has had a hard time evolving.
That's right. And that's why I've fought so hard against the Americana community, because it's just like these white men who want to put you on a shelf and be like, well, this is where you are, this is where you belong, we've categorized you, we see you, and we have the right to put you in your place. And if someone can put you in your place, you're no longer dangerous. And for me, the blues was the original punk music. The blues was the music of social unrest. It was dangerous. It was people singing shit that they couldn't say because they'd get killed. And for me, there's still a lot left to say that's dangerous to the establishment. And you're not going to put me in a box and say, this is what you do and this is how you do it. How dare you? This music isn't yours. This is not yours. This is my birthright. This is my culture. And culture shifts and changes and it evolves. And I'll be damned if I let some white man tell me that, oh, we know what you're doing. We know where you're going with this. You have no idea where I'm going with this.
Well, within that, if you think about, there was a time where if an African American said a certain phrase, thought a certain way, it could mean their life.
Right.
And as a result of that, the use of symbols, whether you look at the songs that were used during for people who wanted to flee the South during slave times and follow the drinking gourd, and there was this sense that, okay, that really means to do this, that this is my map, this is my instruction. And what was required to find that freedom that they were looking for was memorization, there was the use of symbols, there was, all of this. And in music today, it's rare to find that much thought put into the songwriting.
Right.
And so not calling you an anomaly, but really there are, I had a friend, an artist a respected songwriter who always told me that if you take any kind of music, no matter what genre it is, only 10% of it will be excellent. And the rest of it is just for the masses to consume.
That's right.
And so when you strive to be the excellent, how do you get your audience excited again about the discovery that comes in music and the discovery of the past and where it's been and who are the artists that you were influenced by?
Right. Again, and I don't mean to sound trite. I don't work to get my audience excited. I think that people are naturally excited by something mysterious, by something new, by something that's different than the same kind of just pedestrian noise that we're so used to hearing. Like I was seeing the other day, I was walking in the store and I heard some song and I was like, when's the last time there was just silence out in public? Music's become like this security thing to keep people from having to deal with themselves.
Their white noise.
That's right. It's just this, and I was working at this restaurant in Nashville. It's this fancy restaurant I got fired from. And one day, our satellite radio went out. A storm knocked it out, and it was just utter silence in that big old dining room. It was just, you could hear people drinking and the knives and the forks hitting the plates, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling. But there was something very refreshing about it, because that music wasn't there, that background noise. And so that's the last thing I want to produce. I don't want to produce consumable bits for people. I want people to have to really chew on my music. I want them to have to consider everything that they think they know. I want to challenge that. I don't want to be this thing that you can put on in the background and go about your day. I've walked off stages where I felt that was how I was being treated. It's like, if you guys are cool to sit here and talk, me and my band, we're going to go chill in the green room. You don't need us here. I want to actively engage people, and I feel like a lot of our entertainment right now has the exact opposite purpose. They don't want people engaged. They don't want people turned on. They just want people complacent and comfortable. And my music, my art, the way that I want to make it, is going to have the exact opposite effect.
Do you think if more artists had that attitude, then we wouldn't be in the situation we are as far as how people consume music, in the sense that there are people who feel like, oh, I don't have to pay for it, it's just music. Mm-hmm. Oh, they want me to pay for that CD? Oh, I have to buy that track? Oh, I'll just stream it.
There's no value.
Because the idea that this music thing is just something that's in the background.
I think that the way that we consume music, it reflects the way that we we live in our society, the way that our society is set up, it's set up almost on autopilot. Our democracy, it's set up that it's almost like a spectator sport where we don't get involved, we just let this thing happen and we go about our lives, and every 4 years we show up again in the booth. I think it's a very American way of consuming music and living your life. It's easy. It's very easy. And I think that it makes sense that when you have dictatorships that come to power, one of the first things that they do is they seize the arts. They take away the arts. They control that because they understand that music is a unifying force. They understand that there's something very powerful that cuts below society's roles. And I think that if our artists are up to the task of challenging people, having enough faith in their fans to follow them, the music can become a powerful tool of uprising, of fighting back oppression again. And that, I think that's what we're going to need now more than ever, is music as a means of survival, as a means of resistance. Art is resistance.
Well, there is, I still, think about as an African-American woman whose mother marched with Martin Luther King Jr., grandmother had all these events to raise money, and my grandmother always told me, she would force me to listen to blues and jazz music, and as a little kid I thought, I don't want to listen to this. This is your music. I have my own music.
That's right.
Let me tell you about the hip hop of New York. I'm in Memphis, the hip hop of New York City. Here I am, this little girl in Memphis listening to hip hop and heavy metal. Those two things, those two sides of everything. But the more I listened to the music, the more I realized, man, this Black Sabbath thing really sounds like the blues.
Don't it though?
This whole Curtis Blood, that's like some call and response and so it took me a little bit of maturity to get past recognizing that there wasn't much that I could do that had not been done before. I could just, add my own fingerprint to it. But it had been done before. For me to recognize that all the music that I listened to came from some place that was more me than I knew it was.
That's right.
And I thought it was funny that even when I heard, songs from the first time I heard Son House, and I was like speechless. It was so powerful, and I was just like, how have I missed this? How did I not pay attention? This man and his guitar is saying, achieving much more than a 5-piece band with a full wall of amps behind them and a 25-piece drum set, whatever, that they have just to try to accomplish what he's accomplishing. So I'm curious for you, what in blues music, what was that call for you that went, whoa, what have I been missing?
Yeah, well, for me, I had gotten into bands like the Black Keys, the White Stripes. That was my introduction to the blues. It's, kid from South Carolina, pretty mainstream kid, like it was just easy to come across. That's what was given to me and represented the blues. And I started listening to them, and I was like, you guys didn't come up with this. You didn't. We were influenced by someone. So when I was 21, I started researching. I would get on YouTube, and I would look up who do these guys sound like? Put it in Pandora and be like, well, you should try out John Lee Hooker, listen to Skip James, check out Victoria Spivey. And that's where I went. And it was the first time in my life, being a Black young lady who didn't look anything like the world told me I was supposed to look like, not even like the black representations of achievement and success and beauty and desirability. I didn't look like Beyonce. I wasn't flawless. I didn't have a really great weave. You know, I didn't have a poppin' bank account. I didn't have rims on my car. I didn't have a driver's license. I was a bum on a bus. And I felt shame. I felt to my very core ashamed of what I was. I didn't feel that I was worthy of taking up the space that I took up on the Greyhound. But it wasn't until I discovered the blues that I felt that I had the right to my own story, that my story had value. Being from the South, being down and out on my luck, being poor, being depressed, you know, having mental health issues, you know, depression. It's not something black people have. We don't talk about that. We pray. We just pray. Well, I'm an atheist, so who do I pray to? You know? So, but the blues for me, they validated my inner life. They told me that the story that you have, little girl, it's good enough. Pick up a guitar and go tell it. Go sing it. Go sing it. Go sing it until it brings you joy, a delirious kind of stupid joy. Keep repeating it. And you don't have to be smart. It's okay that you're a high school dropout from Spartanburg, South Carolina. You know what you know. You know your truth. No one else knows your truth but you, and you are responsible for that. And it gave me, you know, the guts that I needed to create art out of my story.
Wow. I can't say anything else to that. That is what you want an artist to say to you. That is what you want. That's the kind of passion that you want to feel. So I think that this is the perfect time to open it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions.
Hello, good to see you again. I'm Crystal C. Mercer. I'm a local artist and activist. I'm also a student here at the Clinton School. And I am one of those black women who saw you at the Whitewater Tavern and said, finally, this is someone I can relate to. Ooh. My question for you is, outside of books and music, what are other things that ignite your passion? What are other things that you care about that maybe influence your love of those two things that you talked about earlier?
I think my relationship with the women in my family has been deeply enriching for me, especially the older I get. Thank God I still have my grandmother. And any time that I'm able to literally sit down at her feet and put my head in her lap and listen to her tell me the story of her life growing up in the 30s in Philadelphia, that places me. It roots me. It gives me culture. It gives me tradition. It lets me know that you didn't just pop up from nowhere, that you have culture and a legacy. And watching my mother work in the community, going out into Nashville at night in her little car and picking up homeless people and showing them that they have value, acknowledging them. The sense of acknowledgement that I get from the women in my family as I see them living their lives and doing their work is probably my greatest asset. And then my little sisters relating to those two little shit kickers, you know, like it fulfills me, it roots me, and it places me. And I think that that's very important for African Americans to feel that rootedness, because we were told that we have nothing, we came from nowhere, we were stripped of our language, our family, we were uprooted and ripped apart. So being with the women in my family, it gives me a cohesiveness that's very good for me, and it's good for my art. Of course.
Why were you fired? I'll represent you. You don't have the microphone. I'll give it to you.
It's okay. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
Well, where will you be performing in Little Rock next, where we could go hear you, or are you selling CDs today?
I'm selling CDs tonight.
Yeah.
And it's your lucky night because she's
Yes.
playing tonight.
I'm playing tonight at the Whitewater Tavern. I have a sound check very soon.
You want to go?
Yes. So, yes. Yes, sir?
I want to know why you were fired.
Why was I fired?
I want to represent you.
I was fired because...
I want to know why you were fired. I think it was wrongful termination, I want to represent
No, they were right. I fell asleep. Dereliction of duty.
Okay, I just want to get clear on that.
I fell asleep. I was just tired. I wanted to take a nap, so I took a nap, and they fired me.
Okay.
I had it coming. I'd been warned.
Is there anyone else?
I love the horrible weather video.
Yes.
Let me get a mic.
Thanks. I love the horrible weather video, and I wonder, it changed the way I thought about the song after I saw it and the lyrics of the song, and gave it a fuller meaning. And I wonder how much you were involved in the creation of the video, if it was your idea or if you had that level of control over it.
Yes, it was my idea. I wanted that to be my first single, but my label was like, ooh, what about something a little more upbeat for the first single? So we did Horrible Weather as the second one, and I really wanted to, I was starting to have a lot of questions about myself as an artist. I was starting to doubt myself, like, maybe I should have an image. Like, I don't know who I need to be. Like, what am I supposed to be? And I just had to stop, and I was like, Adia, who are you? Not what are you supposed to be, but who are you actually? Well, you're this girl that lives in North Nashville with her family, who spends a lot of time walking around the city and daydreaming and inside of her own head. And sometimes while you're out in the ether, you can feel like you're floating, but you come home to your family, and that centers you, and that's your power. So it was my idea, all of it. I just made my label pay for it.
Anyway, this is my last call because she has to get sound check. That's a very important part of the night. Or R.L. Burnside used to always joke that before he went to sound check, he'd say, why are we playing the show before the show? And so sound check now to me is the show before the show.
Oh my goodness.
So I was just like, it is pretty true. He's like anything else he could work out on stage. He'd make it work on stage.
Well, he's far superior than I am. That's R.L. Burnside, that ain't me.
No, I think that was just his attitude when he walked up on stage.
That's
This
right.
is what you're getting. This is what I'm giving.
All right, I respect that.
Well, everyone, thank you for being a part of the conversation tonight. Thank you to the Oxford American and to the Clinton School of Public Service. And I really enjoyed coming. Did you enjoy?
I did.
So we had a good time too. So we hope that you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So Miss Victoria has to get to the Whitewater Tavern for her sound check. What time does the show start tonight?
Sarah? 9? 9.
9 o'clock. So I hope to see each and every one of you there.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Good night.
Pat Mitchell-Worley, everyone, from Beale Street Caravan, Adia Victoria. Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks, Dean Rutherford. And thank you, Nikolai, for the fantastic job you do booking this series. Just real quickly, folks, so I mentioned that this conversation tonight was part of a series, and we haven't announced this publicly yet, but the next one is going to be on April 19th. The great jazz trumpeter Terrence Blanchard will be here, and Charles Blow will be interviewing him. So that's going to be at Mosaic Templars on Wednesday, April 19th, in conjunction with the Clinton School and Mosaic Templars. So mark your calendars, come on out and see that, and then Terrence Blanchard will perform the next night at South on Main. So hope to see some of you there. Pick up a CD and a magazine. Thank you so much for being here.